Let's talk about anxiety. From the get-go, I'd like to make this statement that the experience of anxiety itself is not something that we actually need to fear. We have become so fearful or anxious around experiencing anxiety. We've demonized this emotion that when I'm experiencing anxiety, I need to resist that experience. I need to resist those feelings. I need to get away from them and run away from them and fix them and get rid of them as soon as I possibly can. And in my opinion, that is missing the point entirely. Because anxiety in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It is a perfectly normal and perfectly valid emotion or experience. Situational anxiety is a perfectly ordinary and normal human experience. So, situational anxiety is where we can identify that there's an event that is causing me to feel this way. And so it is attached to an event. So perhaps it is an assessment or an exam or a promotion at work that I'm attempting to achieve, or a relationship that I'm not able to navigate, or a friendship that is in some sort of state of turmoil, or financial crisis, or something to do with a close family member, or some sort of death or loss or grief. So that is situational. And anxiety actually has a utility in those particular instances because it offers us just enough adrenaline to actually get motivated to do something about the situation. So to prepare or research or work out a way to manage it. Perhaps it's a social scenario. And so that adrenaline is just enough for us to do something around getting through it. So we also know that once that situation is passed, it's over and I can let it go. And it's the build up towards that which is causing this feeling. And then there will be a point in time at which it is over, for better or worse. Whatever the result would have been, it's done. And I can then let it go. Where anxiety becomes problematic is when it becomes completely overwhelming, when it begins to control our every waking moment and begins to manifest in our body symptomatically as migraine headaches, as heart palpitations, as difficulty breathing. Oftentimes it manifests as issues within the stomach, so whether it's diarrhea or irritable bowel syndrome or urinary tract infections or spastic colons or any sort of stomach ailment. This is the holding of anxiety within the body when we are not at ease with the situation. And when we are not at ease with the situation, we move into dis-ease. And when it's not addressed, it hence becomes physical disease. So, in a way, anxiety is a gift. And if we can perceive anxiety as a gift, we can actually move towards it with curiosity. What we're attempting to do is run away from it, is to get rid of it, is to get away from it, is to medicate it, is to keep it quiet, suppress it, get it to stop, get it to keep quiet. Whereas in fact, it is the body's natural way of saying, hey, there is something amiss. There is something that's out of alignment. There's something that I'm uncomfortable with. There's something that's not right. It is a message. Our body talks to us. Our body attempts to communicate with us. And we are so deeply intuitive, particularly women. We're so deeply intuitive that somewhere in the realm of the ethereal realm, we know before we have conscious knowledge that something's not okay, something's not right. And if we pay attention to those physical emotions, we can become so deeply curious and wise and oftentimes avoid a lot of future trauma because the body's job is to protect you, and it will attempt in every which way possible to communicate with you that you're not in a safe zone. And so when we're experiencing anxiety within our physical being, we can pause and become curious and say, okay, what is the message? I want to move into this, towards it, slowly, with support, instead of attempting to get rid of these emotions. And I can begin to ask questions. So, where is it that I don't feel safe? Is it in my personal, intimate relationships? Is it in my work environment? Is it in my financial environment? Where do I feel out of control? Where do I feel that I'm not sure why? I don't have all the answers, yet there is something amiss. When we've allowed anxiety to run for too long unbridled, it becomes a really complex web to disentangle because it just gets experienced as overwhelming. So if you're already there, then I have a question for you. And the question is this: where does anxiety live? And I've asked that question in a very particular way. That phrasing is very specific. Where does anxiety live? So we've chatted about how and where we hold it in our body. That's not the question. If we begin to think about our anxiety, it is most oftentimes associated to a fear or an event that has not yet transpired. So when we have plans and goals and ambitions for our future, which is a really good idea, it's a really good idea to look forward and have plans and have methods of how we're going to implement these plans. And when we first come up with those, it's normally with a sense of anticipation and excitement and a sense of hope and a sense of something that we're looking forward to. And so we begin to engage with these plans and these activities. And as the time passes and that event begins to move closer towards us in terms of a time frame, and it's perhaps not unfolding the way we thought it would, or perhaps we no longer feel so very much in control of how this is beginning to unfold, or various factors have played in that we didn't take into consideration. And now what? Plot twist. That experience of anticipation and hope and expectation for the future becomes, what if? What if it doesn't work? What if I don't get there? What if the finances are withdrawn? What if the emotional support is withdrawn? What if they change their mind? What if I can't? What if I do? What if I don't? And so the experience of expectation becomes one of anxiety. And the more we look towards this event in the future and attempt to logically and cognitively work out the how, the more anxious we become. So when we then feel that we have no control over this and it's spiraling out of our control, there's a little bit of anger that begins to build. However, you might experience anger, because anger can be experienced in a myriad of ways. And oftentimes, I will speak from the feminine perspective, especially the feminine, yet this is also true for the male experience, is we need to suppress that anger, because what are you angry about? Who are you angry at? And anger is deemed inappropriate and socially unacceptable. And so we become angry at ourselves because we cannot express it as an external identification, so to speak. And when we become angry at ourselves because now we feel powerless and hopeless about the things that we've gotten ourselves involved in and we don't have a way forward, then that, and I'm really giving a really surface level, rapid introduction to this. There is so much more to this. That anger then becomes depression. I'll give you a definition of depression. Depression is anger turned inwards, or depression is anger with no enthusiasm. So, because my expectations of the future are not unfolding in a way that I thought they would, and I've now become anxious about it, and I am powerless to control them, and I'm now angry about them, I've become depressed. Hence, depression and anxiety are twin sisters, twin brothers. They're hand in hand. It's the same side of a coin. And so we medicate it because it's a quick and easy way out. And yes, there is a place for medication, yet we're masking what the body is attempting to communicate. So there is a less quick fix, and there are more rapid ways towards letting this go. Let's work with an initial suggestion. If you're at the point where this anxiety is overwhelming and it's becoming a physical manifestation in your body, as well as perhaps moments of anger and depression, one of the ways that you can de-escalate the intensity of the emotion is to choose to live in the present moment. So allow me just to expand on that for a moment. Our thoughts and our emotions create our experiences of life. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of publications that have become available on this work. One that I suggest is Dr. Joe Dispenza's You Are the Placebo. You can really dig into that. For now, work with this thought experiment that consciousness and energy create reality. In other words, the way in which we think about ourselves and our lives and our experiences, and the heightened emotions that we feel around that. When we're experiencing a really intense emotion and then we add more thoughts into that emotion, those two very powerful and very strong energies, if you like, combine to manifest the reality of how you experience your life. So you want to de-escalate that. You want to manage your thoughts and your emotions. So you need to choose to consciously consider that where am I living? Am I living in the future? So yes, physically I'm here in this particular time space continuum, and yet my thoughts are in the what if. My thoughts are in the future. My thoughts are in, why is he or she reacting and responding to me this way? What if that means this? What if I do? What if I don't? What if I disappoint people? What if I disappoint myself? What if I don't make it? What if I fail? What if all these thoughts exist and live in the future? And what is it that exists and lives in the future as well? Anxiety. So if we can bring our thoughts into the present moment, and this is a discipline where we have to choose to say, in this moment, where I am, in this particular minute in time, am I safe? Am I being threatened? Is there a very real experience, not imagined, not predictive thought, a very real experience of being betrayed or rejected? In this moment, do I have support? Yes. So in this moment, I'm actually okay. And maybe it's only for this moment. And then there's another moment. And in this moment, am I safe? Am I protected? Do I have support? Am I okay? Just for this moment. Yes. And then another moment comes. Am I safe? Am I protected? Do I have support? Am I okay? Only for this moment. Yes. And when you accumulate a day's worth of yeses, when you reflect on one day and say, I experienced hundreds of thousands of moments of being safe and protected and supported and okay only for this moment. That accumulation is evidence that we can manage, is evidence that our bodies are there to support us, that the correct people will be placed in our path no matter what's going to happen. Yes, we are going to be betrayed and rejected and fail. This is the human condition. This is the experience of life. We are not guaranteed to avoid any of those experiences. Yet how we manage them, the story we tell ourselves in our minds about them, is how we get to experience our lives. So choosing that, I'm avoiding using the word now purposefully, yet I'll use it loosely in this moment. Right now, I'm not sick. Right now, I have no disease. And perhaps I'll have a moment in which I am. Yet for every moment in which I'm unwell, I've had hundreds and thousands of moments in which I am well. So where does my strength lie? Bringing yourself consistently into the present moment and realizing who you are. You are well. You are capable. And there is nothing that can transpire that you will not have the maturity and the support to manage. Reduces or de-escalates the thoughts around the anxiety. So obviously this is a lot deeper, and a lot of the manifestations of emotions come from wounds in the past. And so for real healing, we've got to have courage, we've got to be brave, and we've got to tap into, where was this born? Where was the original thought around this born? And what circumstances at that time surrounded me to support me to get into this mess? And that is work that we can tap into. If you're interested, if you felt that anything that I've said resonates with you or in any way was useful or triggered something that could support you, and go ahead and contact me and let's dig a little deeper.